Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Emerging Stronger, Rebuild, Reskill, and Reinvent. My name is Amanda Bruin, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Workday. I just wanted to take a moment before we start to thank you all for joining us. We recognize that this can be a busy time of year in normal times. We know everyone has a lot going on, so we're glad that you're able to join us, and we hope that you and your families are staying safe and healthy. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. This webinar is part of our Looking Forward with Workday webinar series, which has evolved to give you insight into ways Workday can support your organization as you respond to the changing needs of your employees and your business during challenging times and times of change. If you haven't previously joined us, a few tips to help you navigate the ON24 environment. At the bottom of your screen is a gray bar with multiple application widgets. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. All the way to the left of the gray bar is the Help widget, where you'll find resources and information for common technical issues you may experience. The slides should already be open. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The media player should also already be open. Our speakers' video and audio, as well as demos that take place during today's session, will all come through that media player. Since we do have quite a few attendees on today's session, all attendees are muted, but we definitely encourage you to use the Q&A widget throughout the session to submit any questions that you may have. That's the speech bubble with the question mark there in the middle of the gray bar. We'll try to answer questions during the session today, both throughout the course of the webinar and a Q&A session at the end. But if a fuller answer is needed or we run out of time, we'll definitely take all those questions and save them, and we capture them and respond to you following today's session. There's also a resource list open on the bottom left of your screen. You'll find additional resources and materials related to return to work planning, the Workday Skills Cloud, and workforce planning there. So we encourage you to check those out, download anything that you might find useful. And there's also a link there to register for upcoming dates of our webinar series as well. And then for those of you that would like to know, we always get questions around the recording. So that recording of today's session will definitely be made available in approximately 24 hours. You'll get a follow-up email with the link to the recording of today's session. And then we always encourage you to provide feedback on what additional topics you're looking to hear from us about. So there's a survey that will be super brief, just take about 2 minutes to complete. So we encourage you to provide that feedback to us as well. And a lot of you are probably familiar with this as well. This webinar may have forward-looking statements or product demonstrations. So please note that this does fall under our Safe Harbor Agreement. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Scott.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Amanda, and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our session today. We do hope in these times that you and your family are staying safe, staying healthy. This topic that we're going to be talking today, I think, is a hopeful one because even in your roles as HR leaders, as business leaders, as you're helping your organizations navigate this crazy environment, you are also looking forward. You're looking to the other side and to optimize your current workforce to meet the demands that you see out there. So reskilling, rebuilding, reinventing, and that's what this session is all about. My name is Scott Gwynn. I'm the Solutions Marketing Director here at Workday, focused on workforce planning. And I work alongside many colleagues in a variety of areas that all touch on workforce planning, including reskilling, our topic today. And to that end, I'm delighted to be joined by an amazing lineup of presenters, beginning with Greg Pryor, who many of you, I'm sure, have known in past Workday events. Greg is an executive director for for people and purpose programs here at Workday. He's held a variety of HR leadership positions over 6 years, and I'm delighted to have him join us. Also, Marika Shukla. So Marika is Solutions Marketing Principal, who have worked quite closely in this area of skills, talent, and performance. Really delighted to have her join. And then finally, Stephanie Hines and Stephanie McNally will both be lending their expertise in demonstrating current capabilities of Workday to help demonstrate for you the areas of talent optimization and skills planning. So before we get started, we do want to share with all of you who are current customers, make you aware that we have some recently released content that may be helpful to you or to others in your organizations. In the absence of Workday Rising this year, you may know that we are providing an on-demand library has over 70 product demo and vision sessions to share what is in the most recent release and what is to come. You can find more information for that in our product innovation experience in Workday community, where you'll be able to access this information until February 1st. So really delighted to be sharing that with you.
Scott.
Whoops, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. All right, so I think we were talking about the agenda that we have built out. And to that end, I guess I'm gonna quickly go through, we're gonna talk about, provide some context of the times that we are in that necessitates a change for bringing in skills and thinking about your workforce in terms of skills. We're going to bring on Greg to really share his thoughts and experience around what he's seen as the skills movement. Marika and Stephanie Hines are then going to bring to life what it means to understand skills and workforce capabilities as a basis for finding skills and skills adjacencies in your current workforce to meet demand. And from that information, create opportunities, right, to fill current and anticipated skills gaps through Skills Cloud and Talent Marketplace. For aligning talent, I'll come back joined by Stephanie McNally to walk through how decisions about the current workforce will then inform our plans around hiring, around development of programs or development programs, transferring in to address those skills gaps that remain. And of course, we'll have demos throughout to showcase these capabilities in Workday. So it is hard to imagine how much the world has changed, right, in this very, very short period of time. I think we all want to put 2020 as distantly as possible in our rearview mirror. When I first envisioned the graphics for this next slide, I was really thinking of 2020 as being some sort of huge demonic monster that was chasing me down, eyes wide open, and with my foot on the gas pedal. Well, we've tamed down the graphic quite a bit, but let's just say the nature of the environment that we are in has been one for the history books, no question about it. It has made all of us as business leaders, HR leaders, even in our personal lives, so focused on reacting based upon incomplete data and unprecedented circumstances that planning beyond the next days and weeks has been made virtually impossible. And yet we must plan, right? So why is that? Well, even before this current crisis, the business environment that we'd all been operating under across industries was facing a number of powerful forces. Data exploding, good news, the ability to mine that data as well. Regulatory changes impacting global workforces by country, state, province, city. Disruptive digital technologies enabling new business models, but also emerging competitors. We talked about this most of last year, really how business agility had become that determining factor for success for organizations. And then COVID happened, right? Suddenly a new set of forces were added to the mix, as if HR leaders' plates were not already full enough. Employee wellness and modified workplaces, diversity and inclusion, new customer engagement models, and Mother Nature even. And this is the pause for the cautionary reminder that agility works both ways, for both good pivots as well as bad. The Economic Forum estimates that due to changes in technology and economic drivers, 42% of jobs will require different skills in the next 3 years. Over 1 billion workers will need reskilling by 2030. So you need agility, no question about it. key to understanding or to this is really understanding the talent that you have today. Now, for some of you who have attended our previous Looking Forward with Workday Return to Workplace sessions, you might see this as a familiar slide where we introduce the new world of work framework. Evaluate, plan, reopen, reinvent, and we're really going to focus our attention as you go clockwise around to the lower left, reinvent. How do I adapt and maximize my business's continued operations safely? And this framework leverages the strength of Workday product suite, right? So Workday HCM, planning, Prism Analytics at its core. One platform to plan, execute, and analyze enables this framework quite well. So with that context, and maybe adding to it, I'd like to bring Greg on board, because Greg, as we think about the reinvent phase, you know, it is so important to have a good understanding of the skills level we have. And so I'm delighted to have you here and grateful, because this is what you think about. This is what you work on. And you talk to a lot of HR leaders out there. So welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Todd. It's so great to be with you today. Appreciate the invitation.
So first, just to kind of set the context, I've talked about the challenges, but I'd love your take on this. You know, what is it that you're seeing, and as you're talking to your peers and HR leaders, balancing between short-term, you know, business continuity with what's on the other side? You know, how do I get there from here, and how can I prosper once I get over there? What are you hearing from HR leaders?
Yeah, no, thanks so much. I mean, first of all, what an incredibly challenging year to be an HR practitioner in the technology organizations. I mean, and so grateful to so many of our customers who have done so much for so many, and so grateful for that. I would say maybe three things. First of all, I was with a number of CHROs in South Africa recently. We were doing a webinar and event much like this, and one of those CHROs from a very large financial services company, I thought nailed it. And she said, gosh, while we are all in the same storm, we're in very different boats. And so first of all, I think that would overwhelmingly be what we see. We have people in very different contexts. You know, from what technology did you have going into the pandemic? What was your flexibility? What systems in place did you have? And you saw really, unfortunately, people in you know, organizations and people in very different boats. Some that are still struggling, and others that, you know, fortunately weathered the storm pretty well, and they had those systems in place. The second thing I would say is, no matter what the research I read and who I talk to, we have really accelerated and amplified the changes we were already moving into 2020 with. For those who I've had the pleasure to talk with before, for me at least, I believe we were 10 years into the third generation of human capital management. And I would say that going into 2020, that's sort of from the 1930s to, you know, what was the age of personnel. From you know, sort of the 70s to 2010 was the age of HR, and what my experience is we've gone, you know, 10 years even into that future. We have so dramatically accelerated and amplified what's needed. And the third thing I'll say, as I speak with CHROs and our great customers around the world and various thought leaders, is I see 5 imperatives. And we call this sort of the ideas for a changing world. And that's the imperative around inclusion, digital acceleration, enabling experiences, agile organization, and the skills imperative. And these 5 imperatives, I really believe, come together. There's a lot of intersectionality in where they come together and how we think about that. But, you know, overwhelmingly, it's been a very challenging year. There's a lot of pressure on our HR organizations. And I would say most people that I speak with from a positive perspective have weathered the storm rather well. You know, given all things, you know, people are generally doing well. Now we have, you know, mental and physical wellness that we have to absolutely stay on top of. We've got, you know, challenges around the world now, but for the most part, I'm so pleased to see that people are generally weathering the storm as well as possible.
Well, that's great to hear. And I love that analogy of weathering any storm as regard to the skills imperative, which is what we're talking about. So it's great to hear that most are managing it well. I'm wondering, when you look at skills level information, a number of HR leaders that I talk to are still challenged in actually surfacing that at the skills level. Are you finding that too, and how do you see us helping them cope with that?
Yeah, no, I think it's true. And again, this is one of those things where if you had done and been doing the work for quite a while going into this challenging time, you were probably in better position. You were, and I was actually talking with Josh Burson yesterday. Josh, as many know, is a great HCM analyst, and we were exactly having that conversation about there were some organizations who had been working on the skills imperative for many, many years, maybe even full decades, and they are in pretty good shape. There are others who maybe they were beginning to dabble in this, and they probably still have a bit, a journey. I would say, at least for me, the key is transparency, and I'd say transparency on three fronts. First of all, it's the skills that I have as an individual. I refer to sort of when I think about the notion of the internet, and we had HTML that unlocked and unleashed huge amounts of data, access to that data. I believe that we're about to go into this world of HPML, or a human performance markup language, where we can actually share what we know, what we've done, who our connections are, and we're in a whole brave new world, candidly, that I don't think in my 30-year career in this space we've been in. So we're on the precipice of that. The second is clarity on the skills that I need. And I do think we're increasingly right on the edge of an exciting time where a person can say, well, what skills do I need to get that work done, to achieve that job, continue growing in my capabilities, to weather the storms in front of us. And I think there's a whole new generation of transparency on the skills that I need. And then I do think that translates ultimately into what are the opportunities that are out there. And we're seeing the convergence of me being able to declare what skills I have, an organization being able to say what skills it needs, and where those come together in the form of opportunities, whether that opportunity is a brief gig that helps me level up on a particular capability, whether it's a whole new job, whether it's what we would call at Workday a heat experience that helps me continue to build those capabilities. So I do think that transparency, skills I have, skills I need, and then transparency around those opportunities. And I know Marika and my other good workmates and friends are going to talk more about that, so I won't steal their thunder, but I think that's what's really now enabling us to pivot into a really exciting time here.
Very good. I think so too. So let's talk a little bit about alignment and engagement. How do HR leaders get ahead of this kind of skills need that they see coming, as opposed to chasing it all the time? And how do you see that impacting the customer experience? Or I'm sorry, the employee experience?
Yeah, one of the things that I get really, and you know me, Scott, I get too excited about all of these. So, dampening it down a little bit, tempering it just a little bit. But one of the reasons that I'm so excited about where we are with the skills space, and again, to sort of connect with one of the people who I just have so much incredible respect for. I was talking with Homa Barami, who's a professor at the Haas School, a good friend of Workday, and she and I came to this conclusion together that this is one of the unique things in the world of organization where it benefits both the organization and the individual in a really virtuous cycle. And so the more I can identify what skills or capabilities I have, and I would say that capabilities are quickly becoming the new career currency, and that enables the organization to pivot, to flex, to be agile, that we've created maybe this virtuous cycle, that at least, again, as a longtime practitioner, I can't think of when this has happened, when this has happened in the past as an example. Maybe just one other paradigm shift on this that I think people are thinking about. I was with a CHRO of a very large retailer, and he happened to be home, relative to the pandemic, and he was playing Fortnite, lots of Fortnite with his daughter. And finally, he turned to his daughter and he said to her, honey, when do I win this game? When is it over? And she just turned to him and said, you don't win, you just level up, man. And he said, I didn't even know what she was talking about. And I do think we're in a new world where this idea of replacing promotion with progress, looking and saying, yes, I have experiences that allow me to bring those capabilities into my portfolio, to have those experiences, and that really helps us then say, what capabilities do I have that I can leverage in these different opportunities? And I do think a little bit of this notion, especially of our younger generation who wants to level up. And the pandemic has only made this more important, where people say the capabilities I have give me the optionality to do different things, to maintain my relevance. And so I think there's a big paradigm change, happening for us here.
Yeah, really, that's really interesting from an individual employee perspective. What do you think the benefits are for the organization? You touched on it a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate.
In the organization, to your point, we have now such dramatic needs. Thank goodness for any of our great customers who run our pharmaceutical organizations, thinking about on a single day being able to say, literally, we need to sort of save the world by deploying our resources on this particular vaccine. Do I know who in the organization has that background? Can I pivot and move around? So for the organization, it's about agility. It's about the ability to anticipate. If this happens, where are my risks and where are my opportunities? And how can I very quickly point people to the capabilities that we most need? So it's a win-win, because then when I do that, I'm building new capabilities. I'm feeling good about my employee experience, and the organization is winning.
Awesome. Thanks for those insights. That's amazing. Thank you very much. And to your point, at this point, we're going to click down a level. I'll turn it over to Marika to talk about our next segment. Marika.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott and Greg. I think that really just gives us a true sense of how it has become a skill imperative. So I'd like to spend a few minutes on how Workday can provide the skills foundation that you need to better prepare for this changing world. The pandemic, as Greg mentioned, has brought change at incredible scale and speed to I think, every organization around the globe. It's really impacting the processes of talent and performance management during a really demanding time. But in the middle of all this change and all this challenge, we believe at Workday that the talent function is actually in a unique position to enable opportunities, both for your employees as well as for your organization. So you can take a look at some of the heavy processes that you might have in place and replace those with real-time and continuous talent programs. You can evaluate mobility programs to help employees identify and contribute to new and emerging business priorities. And then personalized coaching can really help employees quickly reskill and adapt to new demands. And so to deliver on this opportunity, what we see is organizations really relying on a theme that's really grown in importance and urgency in the talent space, as Greg described. And that's really the need to know your people. So understanding the skills, capabilities of your workforce is going to be a necessity for you to be able to plot the future of your organization. And that knowledge will enable you to transform your talent strategy across hiring, employee development, and then talent deployment as well. So building the right skills and creating the right teams are going to enable you to rise to that challenge. So I do want to spend a few minutes on skills. At Workday, we fundamentally believe that the foundation of reskilling, of talent mobility, begins with that smarter skills foundation. Skills really needs to be that currency, that language, the way that we express what we have and what we need. But as many of you know, skills does represent a very big data challenge for a lot of organizations. If you don't have normalized, structured data, it's almost impossible to match people based on skills. So to tackle this data challenge, going back to 2018, we started building Skills Cloud. And what that is, hopefully many of you, our customers certainly are aware of the Skills Cloud. It's a universal ontology for skills that is built on the Workday graph. And it's a resource that's really capable of learning and improving over time as skills change and emerge. So before I turn it over to Steph to go through a little bit of a demonstration, I do want to spend a few minutes reviewing some of the fundamental elements of Workday's foundation, because it is what enables a lot of Workday's innovation in this space. If you don't know the skills of your workforce, you really can't connect them to the right opportunities. You can't surface the best learning content for them to be able to grow their skills. And just as important, you need to be able to identify skill gaps so that you can make better decisions about how you reskill, how you optimize your talent. So let's take a quick look at some of the four of the key elements here. The first is the skills ontology. So we started our skills journey back in 2018 with the ontology. And what that brought is order and structure to what I described before, that very unstructured and complex data set. And when you bring that structure and standardization to what has traditionally been very unstructured, that really was the first problem that Skills Cloud was designed to solve. And we know at Workday, working with many of our customers, there's millions of skills. There's variations of skills. There's synonyms. There's typos. So what we did back in 2018 is we started with public and purchase data sets. We then worked closely, as we always do, with our early adopter customers who contributed their data to the Skills Cloud. And then we curated all of that to create a universal language of skills. And then the next piece is really skills inference. So leveraging that rich data set in Workday to infer skills that a worker has. So what skill inference is doing is it's looking across, reviewing all of the data in the worker profile to really predict some of the skills that the worker may have. And that's even if they have not explicitly entered that data in Workday themselves. And so what that does is it creates what I like to think of as a skill signature that is unique to that particular worker. At the moment, we are looking at job history, certifications, feedback, learning, and several other data elements to infer skills. And then what the employee can do is verify those skills and add them to their profile. And this is going to populate their Workday worker profile in Workday, and it enables Workday then to surface personalized jobs through Workday recruiting, opportunities through the talent marketplace, learning through Workday learning for that particular worker. And what we're seeing is that skill inference is really increasing what we call skill coverage for employees. And skill coverage is really how robust that worker skill profile is. What we're seeing is that customers who have not yet turned on Skills Cloud might have 10 or 20 or 30% of employees with a robust skill profile. With skill inference and those machine learning identified skills, that then goes up to 70, 80, 90%. So significantly more information around the skills that you have already within your organization. The third piece is skill verification. So we understand the skills that a worker has. We want to validate that or verify that skill to really understand proficiency based on data in Workday that can serve as evidence. So what skill verification is doing is it's connecting skills to skill sources through our skills miner technology. And currently, as I mentioned, those sources are job history, feedback, learning certifications. But really, those are only the first steps in building out our skill verification vision. In the future, we're going to add many other data sources for skill inference and verification, so we can really leverage that rich data set in Workday to provide evidence that a person has that skill. We will also down the road be adding what we call skill signal, which is a proficiency rating based on all the data in Workday that can be surfaced for any of the skills that an employee has. And then lastly, the power of one. So we absolutely infuse Skills Cloud across our Workday applications to help you drive more informed decisions about Workday HCM. So from talent planning and recruiting, performance management, and learning. And as is often true, and my years in pre-sales have taught me this, the best way to understand how skills are the foundation of innovation in Workday is to actually see it in Workday. So I'm fortunate today to be joined by Steph Hines, who will walk us through a demonstration of understanding skills and capabilities in Workday. So Steph, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So I am going to go ahead and just share my screen here, so just give me 1 second. All right, so you should be seeing my homepage screen here, and if you are not, definitely let me know. But as Marika mentioned, we're going to jump. Okay, great. As Marika mentioned, we're going to jump into a quick demo and really bring to life some of those different elements that she just walked you through on the previous slide. So what does that skill profile look like for a worker? How do we then build out that skill profile? And then ultimately, how do we validate and verify some of the skills that we have? So we're, of course, logged into Workday here as one of our workers, Marcus. And as he logs into his homepage, of course, he's presented with the people experience, which really uses machine learning to bring some of those most important things front and center. So he can see a couple of cards highlighting, some new journeys, as well as some required learning. Another kind of key piece as we think about reskilling the organization. But as he scrolls down to the Discover section here, you'll notice a couple of additional cards, and this will surface cards that are specific to him and his role at the organization. So one of the cards that you can see here is a card prompting him to come in and update his profile. So as he drills in to view his profile, he's brought to, of course, his Workday worker profile, which, of course, many of you know is really that 360-degree view for a worker at the organization. The reason why I highlight this is because it really stores all of that really rich information about a worker. So a couple of examples are, the feedback this worker has received, some of their job history that they've had over time, as well as, many of the other elements around talent, compensation, as you can see here on the left. Now, as you scroll down to the bottom here, what you'll also notice is his skill profile. So as he maybe applied for an open position at the organization and was hired into the company, right, we gather that information as a part of the recruiting process. Or as he simply has taken on more opportunities through the talent marketplace or even, different learning opportunities, he started to build that skill profile over time. So one of the things that you can see here is a number of different skills. And as he drills in to edit this, he's brought to the career profile where he's first prompted to come in and take a look at all the skills that he has in there today. But Marika also mentioned this concept of being able to infer skills about a worker. So you'll also notice down here at the bottom, the suggested skills, making it very easy for him to come in and be able to simply, add a couple of these skills to round out some of those different areas of his profile. Now, as he comes in to update his career profile, one of the other things that I'll point out to you is that as he navigates to the skill interest, or the interest tab here, you'll notice that he can also input some skill interest. So this will help to generate some of the different things that he'll see as he logs into the opportunity marketplace or even within his learning homepage as he looks to discover other learning content within Workday. So we'll go ahead and save that information, and of course, it will add that dynamically to the worker's skill profile. Now, if I just come back to that really quickly, as you saw kind of previously, there is a numeric value next to each one of these different skills. And so this value doesn't necessarily represent the signal, but if you drill into it, it's actually pointing to the number of skill sources that we have found within Workday that align to this particular skill here. So for call center operations, we can see that there's a number of different sources that are coming from work history, different types of feedback that he's received, certifications, and even different learning content that he's completed along the way. And so when we think about the concept of being able to validate and verify the skills that a worker has, we can make this editable so that the employee themselves can, of course, come in and identify additional sources, or we can make it view only. And so the way that these skill sources get tagged is we, of course, use machine learning to be able to infer which skill sources, of course, apply to a particular skill here. So that is one of the ways that we can start to add additional skill sources to the profile. And then, of course, we use the skill profile to be able to then, as Marika mentioned, create that really personalized experience. So whether that is discovering different types of learning content that's presented to the worker, or even through the opportunity marketplace as they look to reskill and acquire new skills to help them today or even in the future. So with that, Marika, I'll hand it back to you to share more about what we're going to talk about next.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steph. In terms of, we really hope that demonstration gave you a sense of why the skills foundation is so important. But I do want to talk about how that foundation then enables engagement and opportunity in Workday. So as I already mentioned, the real power of the skills foundation is that ability for our customers to leverage it across all of the application suite. So from the HCM worker profile, recruiting, talent and performance and learning, and then some of our newer solutions, Talent Marketplace and Career Hub. And Scott and Steph will talk a little bit about planning in a little bit too. But that foundation of skills really sets the stage for innovation in all of those different areas. And a strong skills foundation and visibility into skill gaps and opportunities across the organization with a talent marketplace, as well as a unified learning solution to help you close those skill gaps, is really going to enable you to actually expand your internal talent pool. So if you think about it, rather than trying to find the perfect match for a specific role, you can actually find workers who have skills or skill interests that are closely related or adjacent to the skills that they already have or the ones that you need. And then finding workers with these skill adjacencies will not only enable you to more efficiently upskill and reskill, but you can also create a bridge between what currently might seem like unrelated departments, because employees can really transition from one to the other with a relatively light learning program, or perhaps even through a gig opportunity in the talent marketplace. And with Workday, you're able to make all of those connections in a single solution. So from understanding the skills and capabilities to engaging your people through learning and through experiences. And one of the key solutions that really enables you to make those connections is our new talent marketplace solution. So as with any talent marketplace, a talent marketplace is going to require a supply side and then a demand side. So supply in this case is your organization's current talent, and then demand is the various opportunities, jobs, gigs, projects inside of your organization today, and those might be rapidly changing given the current environment. The talent marketplace is going to seamlessly make those connections between supply and demand in a scalable solution. And it leverages machine learning powered matching to enable staffing support so you can quickly find the right resources for a particular opportunity. Opportunity curation, which is really about matching curated opportunities to skills and interests. Skill suggestions, so suggesting skills to help employees update their profile and better prepare them for new opportunities in the future. And then targeted promotion, so really promoting opportunities to your workforce through natural workspaces and notifications so that users don't miss an opportunity. And so I'm again going to turn it over to Steph one more time to really give you a sense of how Workday can engage your people through opportunity. And I'm also going to make a quick plug for please do ask any questions that you have by going to the Q&A tab. We want to be able to answer any questions that you have in this session. So Steph, back over to you.
All right, great. So let's return back to Workday, and I'll take you through a quick tour of the talent marketplace. We'll first start by taking a look at what does this look like for an employee who is looking to take on some new gig opportunities. And then we'll also take a look at what does this look like for what we call a gig owner, somebody who's created a new gig within the organization and is really looking to put together that skilled team of workers. So first and foremost, for employees, from their homepage, one of the things they can, of course, do is navigate over to the opportunity marketplace. And the opportunity marketplace is, of course, going to surface up not only any of the open gigs, but also open jobs coming directly from Workday Recruiting. So if they didn't want to take on a short-term project like a gig, they do have that opportunity to also see where they could potentially go next within the organization. But as Marika mentioned, we use machine learning to look at the skills that a worker has and to then be able to make recommendations. So you can see some of those recommended gigs as well as gigs that are recommended to help this particular worker develop in some of the areas where they may have some skill interests or even some skill gaps. So what's great about this is that you have that ability to really easily see what type of match am I for this particular gig, what skills can I develop, and then, of course, you have the ability to drill in and go a little bit deeper. So if we take a look at the top gig match up here at the top, one of the things I can do is simply drill in to view that match analysis. So as an employee, I can very quickly determine, what are some of the skills that I'm going to bring to this opportunity? What are the skills that I'm missing? And what are some of the skills that I can work on developing as I participate in this sort of gig? Now, you also notice that within here, we've created that close connection to Workday learning. So if there are particular areas where I am missing or have skill gaps, I can, of course, drill into one of these courses and add this to a learning path, or even consume this course when I have time to go in and do so. So helping to close skill gaps even, outside, of course, of the talent marketplace. And then where I am missing some of those skills, I can also add those to my profile here as well. So as I save that, it seems like a great gig that I might be interested in taking on, and in an area that I can develop and apply some of my current skill set. So as a worker drills in to view the details, they're presented very simply with just all of the information. So what is this gig about? What are some of the deliverables and milestones? What are some of the skills that are going to be required? And then really clearly lets me know that I can develop one or more skills by by participating in this gig team. And then from here, the worker can come in and take action. So they can simply express their interest in this opportunity, which you can think of that as sort of raising your hand, which the gig owner will see when they are looking for the right people to build or add to their gig team. So that's really what the experience looks like for our employee who is looking to discover opportunities that will help them to develop skills. I wanted to just quickly log in to show you what does that experience look like for a gig owner, somebody who's created that gig and who is building out that gig team. So as we log in as our gig owner here, they can see the gig worklet, and they have that ability to be able to drill in there. And they're presented with all of the open gigs that they are currently managing. So there's many different types of gigs in this sample list. Here, and of course, our gig owner can drill in to be able to come in to make some changes to the gig team that they're currently building out. Now, a couple of things you'll notice is that we, again, use machine learning to not only match the employees to gigs, but we also, of course, present this list of candidates to our gig owner, helping them to uncover different people across the organization who are a good match for this gig, but also that are really looking across the entire organization, so expanding beyond their network and creating more opportunities for everybody within the org. So from here, very similarly, the gig owner also has that ability to view the match analysis. And then as they find people who might be a good fit, they have that ability to start to add them to the gig team. So you'll notice that some of these open positions up here at the top now start to become filled by some of these different folks within here as well. And as you start to review this list, you'll be able to look at it through a couple of different views, whether it's interested or shortlisted candidates within here. Now, one of the other things that Marika mentioned is that ability to also promote this gig. So if I'm not seeing the right amount of workers with the right skill sets, I can also choose to promote this gig, which will present to me in this example 130 other candidates that we found within Workday who could potentially have the right skill sets to be able to support this role. So especially as we think about casting a wider net across the organization, one of the things, of course, you can do is promote that gig out, which, of course, notifies them about that open gig opportunity that they may be interested in. And so one final thing that I'll show you here related to the gig owner view is that upon completion of a gig, a very important piece of this is to be able to come in and not only close out this gig, but to be able to provide feedback. So we've really consolidated that feedback experience for the gig owner. So they have a very simple way to be able to come in and not only recommend this worker for another gig, but also to be able to provide feedback within here, which I don't have any in here as this example, but they can provide that anytime feedback and also endorse skills for a worker, which, as you just saw in the previous demo, serves as a source of skill evidence or skill source that can help to build out that profile for a worker who's looking to reskill or acquire new skill sets within the organization. And then one final thing that I'll highlight for you guys that Marika didn't speak to yet, but I'll just kind of take you through a quick preview is as we think about helping our workforce to develop and reskill, this ability to leverage what we call the Career Hub. And so I'll kind of take you through just a very quick tour of that. If it's your first time logging into the Career Hub, you'll go through a very quick and simple setup experience, helping you to better understand what is your skill profile, and of course, enabling you to add some skills there, and also identify a career focus. So As you think about potentially growing in your role or even beyond your role, you have that ability to select the option, and this actually determines what we present to you when you get into the Career Hub. And then, of course, you can identify if there's any roles that you're interested in pursuing, as well as skill interests. And then lastly, what is your availability for gigs? So as we look at presenting different opportunities to you, you can indicate that within here as well. And then as you jump into the Career Hub homepage, you're presented with a number of different suggestions, which include all of the different areas of talent that include things like mentors and connections, as well as you can start to see here Workday Learning, so you can save some of these courses to your plan as you think about building out those short and long-term goals. And then also, what are some of the different you're seeing those gig opportunities coming from the talent marketplace brought into the context of the Career Hub, creating a single experience for our worker to be able to add those to their plan if that helps them to develop along the way. And then really the last piece here is to take a look at that plan as you take action on that over time. So you can see everything from development items to gigs to mentors, all of those different actions that you're going to take to make that continuous progress on your career as you reskill or develop for a role in the future. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing, and I will hand that back over to you, Marika.
Great. Thank you so much, Steph. So hopefully that gave all of you a sense of how we can engage your employees by providing opportunities that really are based on their skills, their skill interests, as well as where they want to go from a career perspective. So Scott, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about aligning talent.
All right, great. Thanks, Marika and Stephanie. And so we're going to bring all of this new information that Marika and Stephanie shared around Skills Cloud, around Talent Marketplace, into the context of our broader goal, which is aligning talent to the needs of the business and with agility. And this is really where the power of a workforce planning solution like adaptive planning with powerful modeling capabilities, scenario planning, collaborative views, and workflows really comes into play for talent planning. Now, in the context of this workforce planning maturity curve that you see, you'll notice that as we go up, you see increasing levels of both data granularity that's required as well as complexity, beginning on the lower left with headcount and cost planning, where a lot of work customers first start. Very just up from that, you might find advanced cost planning like Commerce Bank does, also #1 payroll customer. We then evolved to resource capacity planning, where companies like Airbus have used really the capabilities within adaptive planning for their operational resource capacity plans as an initial use case. And even as they do that, looking to evolve up into skills planning. Strategic workforce planning, of course, matching those key initiatives for the company as they move forward. And then finally into skills planning, where Pence Mason, a company out of UK, has been utilizing adaptive planning for workforce planning for some time, and a high-tech customer here on the West Coast is doing it as well, really looking to do a better job of matching their supply against demand via talent. And so what does that look like for us? Well, it really is, as I said, just a supply versus demand challenge, but at a very granular level, matching your skills capacity gaps to meet the needs of tomorrow. And starting with that left side where you have the supply via talent profiles and the information brought in from Skills Cloud and Talent Marketplace, really to feed what's available today against the demand on the right. And that's the strategy, or you'll see that under strategy, the strategic initiatives that are going to demand those traditional roles, but critical ones for sales and production, but also those kind of new technology roles that are in such demand but tight supply. And then feeding all of this from data sources, both within Workday and externally, to help solve for this, hiring of the talent that we need, this growing the talent from within, transferring in or out the skills as necessary, allocating those skills across the business, and then replacing some processes perhaps with automation. So to bring this again to life, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie McNally, our other Stephanie, to share with you what that looks like within adaptive planning.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Let me take a second just to share my screen here. Great. So today we're logged into Workday as Susan Steinberg, and Susan's a business leader in the organization that manages the global support call center. So within Workday, she has access to all the foundational data about her workforce. She can view all the different details around her 127 reports to the employee versus contingent worker, the job profile, where they're located as their top performer, et cetera. She can view her open positions across the organization, has visibility into cost of workforce. So she can leverage all of this rich foundational data to inform her workforce plan. So the key to have a continuous workforce plan that puts her better positioned to be more proactive to any changes within the business environment. So right from that report, she can navigate to her workforce plan. There are many ways to navigate Workday adaptive planning, one being a dashboard, which we will leverage today. A couple key concepts as we walk through the workforce plan. Versions is very important, as Scott mentioned, to be able to spin off different versions and to be able to do what-if analysis. Maybe we have a baseline from finance based on their operational plan. We have an improved plan and a continuous plan that we're always working with. Another key component is be able to slice and dice your workforce plan by any work tag or dimension. If we navigate back to the dashboard, we can see here she has 203 approved based from maybe that operational plan, and now she's currently sitting at 179. So she has some work to do. Some KPIs such as attrition or average days to fill can be incorporated into the plan for a more accurate view of the future. And of course, the cost of workforce will change as her plan changes. Additionally, she has insight into where we need to hire based on the gaps from that working plan, that continuous plan versus that approved plan. To be more proactive, Susan can leverage drivers to identify future demand. So being in charge of the global support call center, her concern is around number of calls coming in and how many heads she will need to support that demand. She can even be more specific and bring this down to a specific job profile, maybe a customer service representative. At the bottom, you'll notice she has assumptions that will drive the demand, i.e. number of calls estimated per hour, per worker, which will drive that assumption of the demand of 97. You can see here we have a deficit of 27 that we need to hire to. Leveraging all that data that Stephanie showed you within Skills Cloud, we can identify workers where we have skills gaps, and even specifically more critical skills that we need to hire for this specific job profile. Now that Susan has identified her demand, she can build a top-down plan to meet that. She could then put that plan into action with whenever I build, borrow, or buy. Do we train within or upskill within? Do we transfer from other areas in the organization, or do we go out and recruit? So first, let's navigate back to this top-down plan. And we can see based on that demand, she's done some work, and it looks like she's meeting that from a top-down perspective, even coming in a little bit under cost that we had estimated. Well, how did she do that? When we navigate down to the bottom here, we have some levers that we can pull. Are we going to reskill or upskill? Okay. Are we going to redeploy, relocate, or restructure? Then we have the option, are we going to recruit employees, or are we going to recruit contractors? And it's very dynamic to be able to navigate. Maybe we want to see the effect if we want to hire that full-time equivalent employee, and we can see the cost impact immediately if we navigate to that, okay? So now that she has a plan, she can put that into action. And the first option is to build within. So we can see she has 41 employees that do not have a learning development plan in place. And we have various options for that, whether it's a learning campaign, mentoring, peer-to-peer, and then we also have cost assumptions associated with that. For each employee, we can identify specific programs and skills that they want to upskill. So if we navigate maybe to start with all of our top performers, and we can navigate down and see for specific all of the workers, the skills they're learning to upskill, and even just how they're going to get there. Our next option is to borrow. So we can look within the organization for others that have those specific skills that we are looking for. You can see here she's actually met her top-down plan, but if not, she could always navigate to another job profile, and we'll stick with our top performers. And she can see Monique has those skills that we're looking for, so she can now work with the manager to maybe move her over to the customer service representative position. And our final option is to go out and recruit. So we can go out, and whether it's an employee or a contingent worker, we can see our open versus our filled positions, the cost of worker associated with that. We have all of our requisitions that we're pulling in from recruiting and all of our current workers. So once we make that decision of how we're going to go ahead and hire, we can come in here. This doesn't yet have a position or a job requisition opened. We can identify what type of employee, all the assumptions of location and level and start date, et cetera, driving the cost of this individual. And right from here, we can now kick off the business process to create this position and starting to execute on that plan. So really bringing it full circle once you've executed on that plan, being able to now have the visibility into it and to obviously continue that continuous planning process. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Scott.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for that. And so bringing it all together, our goal for this session really was to help you move that rearview mirror to the side where it belongs so that you can really focus on what's ahead. And that's what this session is all about. Workday is uniquely positioned to help you both support workers and your organizations through this evolving world of work. As crazy as it is, it will get better, but you will emerge stronger. So our key takeaways to share with you before we jump to Q&A is, first, Workday has a comprehensive solution for just what we're looking for, a reskilling, rebuilding, reinventing to emerge stronger based upon Workday's HCM suite, and stay aligned with the business. Next, Workday's navigating the new world of work framework, and skills-based solutions provide customers with that unparalleled agility that you're looking for. And the success of Workday customers in navigating this challenging times, both in returning to work as well as rebuilding, reskilling, not just examples of our open approach to creating solution capabilities, but they demonstrate the strength of Workday community, that's you, and our partners in all working together. So let's open it up to Q&A quickly. And while I look in there, maybe you could just talk about a couple common questions for you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And we have been responding to some of the questions that have been coming in. But one of the questions that I wanted to address is one that actually comes up quite frequently, and it's around skills and competencies. So if you as an organization have spent the time and energy to build out a competency framework associated with jobs and job profiles, the way we think about it is that it's really skills and competencies. So we will be in the future using competencies and ratings for competencies to feed into, through skill inference, to feed into the skills that the employee has and the skills that would appear on the employee profile. So I wouldn't think about it as an either or. It's absolutely a skills and competencies conversation in Workday. And if you don't have a competency framework, you can absolutely just get started with the from the ground up skills cloud approach as well. So Scott, I know we only have a couple of minutes, but you may have a question as well around planning.
Yeah. One question that came in was around skills in a separate system, being able to integrate those. And one of the options was really utilizing web services to load your skills into Workday and leveraging Workday's ability to convert those skills into Skills Cloud. Depending on your setup or role, you can bring in other data through Prism if you haven't, or adaptive planning. It just depends on where you are looking to integrate that. The most obvious place certainly is around Skills Cloud. Hopefully that helps. As far as planning questions around workforce planning, talent planning is a very focused area within workforce planning. And so it is a really good use case for recruiting teams to be able to pick up, to be hired recs and execute on plans going forward. That is kind of one question is like, where do I start? And I showed you that maturity curve. That maturity curve you don't need to start at headcount and cost planning. You can really on-ramp from anywhere to address your most keen pain points.
Scott, maybe we'll just do one more, and then we can wrap it up. So we did get a question. I mentioned this concept of proficiency ratings for skills. So we are absolutely working on what we're referring to as a skills signal in Workday, so that all of that rich data can be used to not only build up a worker profile, but can also be used to essentially create an inferred rating or a skills signal. And what Workday will be doing in the background is taking a look at the employee's experience, their relevance, the relevance of that experience, the recency of that experience, and the duration of that experience, and bringing all of that together. We will also allow our customers, of course, to override that if that is something that they'd like to do based on an external skills assessment as well. So lots more information coming about that down the road. All right, we are at time. So Scott, I will hand it back over to you to close out.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for attending the session. I hope you found it valuable. I think just one other thing to share is our upcoming looking forward with Workday events that are taking place. Please reference that, and we hope to see you then. And with that, I will thank you and have a great day.